Hello, John Talley here with Partzilla.com. Today we're going to take a little bit of time to look at different chain breakers and the techniques that are required to actually make and break a chain. The one we're going to be looking at today is actually one that came off of that 2009 Yamaha YFC 450R. And if you look at it, it is what they call an endless chain. It does not have a master link. It does not have a press-on link. It does not have a staked link. This one is actually in one piece still, because I went through the pain of actually taking the swing arm off of the bike. That way I could get the chain out and get the new one back in, which was also an endless chain. Well, let's say you don't want to go through that much pain and suffering to just to get a chain replaced on your bike. Well, you can go with a rivet type, or you can go with one that actually has a clip on it. Now, of course, the rivet is going to be more secure and last longer, less chance of it actually kicking that clip out and losing your chain. Now, Motion Pro makes a couple of different chain makers and breakers. They make a smaller one that can actually work with a bigger chain like this as far as putting it together, but it is not stout enough to actually push the pins through. And that's why we're going to take a look at what they call the jumbo one from Motion Pro. It'll actually work on chains up to a 530. The one we're going to work on today is actually a 520, so it shouldn't have a big problem with it. If you were going to use this unit, you would need to grind down the head so it would have a chance of pushing that pin through. The larger unit, on the other hand, it can actually take the chain as it is and push the pin through, effectively breaking the chain. So what we are going to do today is actually use it to break this chain as if it was still on the machine, and then I'm going to show you how to actually put a new chain together. And to break it apart, we're actually going to use the driver pin, the guide, and the spring, and then the actual body. So we're going to put the spring in here. We're going to go ahead and put that into the body. Then we're going to take the guide and just run it down flush. Now, this doesn't need to be tight, because this job is just to guide that pin through the chain. Now we've got it backed up just a little bit. We're going to bring it up to where it's just below the surface of the guide. Then we're going to take our chain and pick a pin that we want to push through. Now we want to bring that main bolt down to where it encapsulates the pin we're about to push through. Doesn't have to be tight, just snug it down where it's flush like that. And now we're going to use the extractor pin to actually drive the pin through. Now there's going to be a lot of resistance in the beginning, and then it should ease up once it breaks it loose. There it goes. And this will actually push it all the way through. There she goes. There it is. Pretty simple when you have a tool strong enough to actually do the job. Like I said before, this one can do it, but you have to grind off that face before it can even have a chance of actually putting that pin all the way through. These chains already have grease on them, so they're ready to go actually. So the one I'm going to show you first is the clip type master link. It pretty much goes together the same as a rivet type. We're actually going to press this on at a certain width, and then to hold it in place, we use one of these clips. So the tool's going to help us do that. Reason being is it takes a fair amount of pressure to get the outer plate pushed onto the master link itself. Plus, you're having to compress in those O-rings. Now, trying to do that with a pair of vice grips, it can be done, but it's not easy. But that's the whole reason you buy a tool like this, is to get it done quickly and accurately. And now, all we do is put the guide back in, and once I get the chain in position, then we'll put this press plate on, attach it to the chain, align it to where the pins will come up through these holes and actually push it into position. Before we do that, I want to make a note of what this chain width actually is. We're going to call it 16.7 millimeters. So when we're putting on our master link, we want our plate distance to be 16.7, or as close as we can get to it. So let me set up a few things, and then we'll see if we can get that outer plate pressed on. You'll see the method to my madness here in a second. Now, if you're doing this, it's going to be on the machine, of course. So pull it back to where it's actually on the sprocket, and the sprocket's actually holding the chain. Gives you a working area, so to speak. I'm not putting the grease that comes along with the package because I'm going to be pulling it back apart, and it basically just make a mess. But if you were doing it on your machine, go ahead and put grease around the O-rings as well as the pins on the link. Then we have 2 more O-rings, and then the outer plate. Now you'll notice that it'd be really tough to try to get this to push down just with your fingers. So we're going to let the tool help us do this. And it's going to be a little awkward for me. I'm going to face it this direction to where you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to take the press plate, get it in position, and we want to make sure that it is lined up with each of the pins. We're going to bring the guide down on top of it and get it to push the plate down. Now you don't want to go too far, so we're going to do this slowly and then check it every so often to see if we're making progress. All right, it's close. Just a tick more, and then we're going to use our caliper and see where we are. Now granted, we don't have to be super precise with this outer plate because it's going to force its way out against this, this clip anyway. But let's see where we ended up. 16.7, so nailed it. Now here's the other important thing. If the front of the machine was pointing this direction, we want this edge of the clip to be going in that direction because the chain is going to be going in that direction. Now if this was on a motorcycle or an ATV, it'd be pretty easy for you. All you'll have to do is take a screwdriver or a blunt nose chisel, just tap it with a hammer and it's going to go across. For me it's going to be a little bit different because I'm working on a table and there's nothing holding it. So I'll try to replicate this as if it was on the machine, but you get the idea. Like I said, it's going to be a whole lot easier for you to do that on the machine versus on a table. Let's take our chain back apart. Tell you what, I'm going to cheat here for a second, run over to my vise, get this pulled apart. Whole lot easier like that. And then we're going to put it back together using a rivet type master link. So this procedure is very similar to what we just did with the clip type, except for the fact we're not going to put on a clip once we press down the outer plate. We're actually going to change the configuration of our tool and then bring down on each one of these pins to mushroom it out, and that's what's going to hold it in place. So let's get our O-rings back on. And remember, you would be putting grease on these as you're putting it together. Once again, I'll be taking this apart when we're done here. And our top set of O-rings. Now we put on the plate. Our tool is still set up the same way it was. Get our press plate lined up on the link itself. Bring it down to make sure it goes into that guide. This one is usually pretty tricky because you're having to do it by sight. Typically what happens, it'll come down and then actually the press plate will hit one of the pins. At that point you'll need to back off, realign it, and then keep going. I think it's starting its way on there. Let's take a look real quick. All right, it's just above the edge of the plate now, so we're making good progress. We're actually lined up pretty well, but it never hurts to check. There it goes. All right, let's stop there. Check with our caliper and see if we're at the right width for the plates. So I actually pushed it in a little too far, and I did that on purpose because I'm going to show you how to back it back up and then we'll get it set correctly. See how these other links move freely? Now let's get to that one. Well, it has a lot of stiction to it, and I guarantee you it's going to wear out those O-rings way too quick, and we don't want that either. So what we need to do is back that plate off. What we're going to do is use the screwdriver and the hammer like we removed the other one and just bring it back out. And let's stop there, check with our caliper and see where we are. 16.69. I'm going to call that close enough. Now what we're going to do is set up our tool to do the actual rivet process. So this piece, which is actually called the rivet anvil, goes on the back side of the chain. And this one is actually what they call the set. So we're going to bring this out, take out our guide, and then install the set. We have our tool ready to go, but before we start, we need to take another measurement with our caliper, because what we need to determine is the width that we're going to flare this or rivet it. So we're going to be starting with 5.2 millimeters, and we're going to flare it an additional 20 to 30 thousandths. So 25 thousandths is 0.635 millimeters. So that's what we're going to add to that. So we got 5.2, so it's going to be right at 5.835 millimeters. Everybody follow that? So now our tool's set up. Let's go ahead and get the chain in. Get the back of the chain into that anvil area. We're going to bring down the set and slowly start making the rivet. Now here's the real trick here, guys. Be patient here, because there is no reversing this. If you make a mistake here, then you need to press out the link and start over. And I'd rather not do that. All right, it's starting to flare it a little bit. Let's give it one more nudge and see where we are. I stopped at the right point, 5.84. Why? Because I've done it a few times. The only thing I would have to do next is just do the same procedure on the other side, and this one would be finished. Well, listen, if you need this tool or any other tool along with parts for your machine, why don't you come see us at Partzilla.com and we can get you taken care of. If you like what you see, why don't you go ahead and hit that subscribe button. That way you can keep up with whatever I'm working on next. Listen, we just want to say thank you for shopping here with us at Partzilla, and we will see you in the next video. Have a great day.